market. You've probably seen those eye-watering rental listings and wondered if anyone actually pays that much. The truth is, many people do, not because they have to, but because their search habits lead them straight to the most expensive options. The most visible listings are often professionally managed and priced at a premium. But with a strategic approach, you can find a place to live that doesn't consume your entire paycheck. This isn't about finding a unicorn apartment. It's about using a system to find affordable, comfortable housing in Canada. Let's begin with where you're looking. Mainstream rental websites are a starting point, but they are also the most competitive. To find hidden gems, you need to go where the smaller, independent landlords are. Start with Facebook Marketplace. Its search algorithm is basic, so you'll need to be persistent, checking daily. Use broad search terms like apartment or condo, and then manually filter through the results. Also, join local neighborhood and community groups on Facebook. Landlords often post here first to find tenants from the community before paying for a broader listing. Finally, don't underestimate the power of simply walking through a neighborhood you like. Look for for rent signs in windows of smaller apartment buildings or duplexes. These are often managed by the owner directly, who may offer more flexible terms and lower rent than a large corporation. The timing of your search is just as critical as the location. The rental market has seasons. The busiest and therefore most expensive times are spring and summer, from April to September. This is when students are looking and most people prefer to move. To avoid this peak, concentrate your search during the winter months, specifically from November to February. Demand is at its lowest, and landlords are more motivated to fill vacancies quickly, making them more open to negotiation. For your daily search routine, the best time to look is on weekday mornings. New listings often go up between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. By searching then, you can be one of the first to respond, increasing your chances of securing a viewing before the competition floods in. When you find a promising listing, your first message is your first impression. Avoid generic one-line messages like, "Is this available?" Landlords receive dozens of these and often ignore them. Instead, create a professional, detailed template you can customize. Start with a polite greeting and state the specific property you're interested in. Briefly introduce yourself and anyone who will be living with you. Mention your stable employment or source of income, your desired move-in date, and that you are a non-smoker with no pets, if applicable. End by proposing 2 or 3 specific times you are available for a viewing. This shows you are organized, serious, and respectful of their time. Conversely, never start by trying to negotiate the price in your first message or by making demands. Save the negotiations for after you have seen the unit and established a rapport. As you browse listings, you need to develop an eye for what's overpriced. A key indicator is the days on market data, which many rental sites now provide. If a unit has been listed for over 30 days, especially during a busy season, it's a strong sign that it's priced too high for its value. Another signal is a price drop notification. This means the landlord has already acknowledged the initial price was too high and is becoming more motivated to rent it out. When you see these signs, you have more leverage. Compare the unit to similar ones in the same building or neighborhood that have recently rented. If there's a significant price difference for a comparable space, you've identified an overpriced unit and a potential opportunity for negotiation. Negotiation doesn't have to be a confrontation. The best time to negotiate is in person, during or immediately after the viewing. If the landlord is present, you can start a conversation. Let's say the rent is slightly out of your budget. Instead of just asking for a lower price, you can offer value. For example, you could say, "I'm very interested in the apartment. My budget is slightly lower than the asking price, but I am an ideal tenant with a stable job and excellent references. I'm also willing to sign a longer lease, perhaps 18 months instead of 12, if that provides you with more security." If the rent is firm, negotiate on other costs. Ask if a parking spot or a storage locker can be included in the price. Another effective tactic is to request a rent freeze for the second year. You can frame it as, "If I'm a great tenant for the first year, would you consider keeping the rent the same for the second year's renewal?" This can save you hundreds of dollars down the line. Understanding rent control is crucial for long-term financial stability. In Ontario, for example, buildings first occupied for residential purposes after November 15, 2018, are exempt from provincial rent control. This means the landlord can increase the rent by any amount they choose after your initial lease term. For buildings occupied before that date, rent increases are capped at a guideline set annually by the government. When you are looking at a condo or a newly renovated apartment, always ask when the building was first occupied. You can usually verify this through public records or by asking the property manager directly. Choosing a rent-controlled building gives you predictability and protects you from sudden, drastic rent hikes, allowing you to budget effectively for the future. Your rent payment is only one part of your total housing cost. To make a true comparison between two apartments, you must calculate the total monthly outlay. Create a simple spreadsheet. For each property, list the base rent. Then add the estimated monthly costs for utilities, hydro, heat, and water. Some listings include these. For others, you'll need to ask the landlord for the average monthly bills from the previous tenant. Next, factor in any other mandatory fees, such as tenant insurance, which is often required, and any additional costs for parking or storage if they aren't included. By adding all these figures together, you get the true cost of living in that unit. An apartment with a lower base rent might actually be more expensive once you add in high utility costs. So this detailed calculation is essential for an accurate comparison. Don't just look at the number of bedrooms. Look at the entire layout. Creative use of space can significantly lower your costs per room and make a smaller apartment feel larger. Look for listings that mention a den or a flex room. These spaces are often too small to be legally classified as bedrooms, but can easily function as a home office, a guest nook, or even a small nursery. A one-bedroom plus-den apartment is often only marginally more expensive than a standard one-bedroom, but offers the functionality of a two-bedroom for a fraction of the price. When viewing a unit, visualize how you can use every square foot. Can a large living room be partitioned to create a workspace? Can an oversized closet be converted into a small office? This mindset allows you to find value where others don't see it. Your strategy shouldn't end once you've signed the lease. As your renewal date approaches, you have an opportunity to secure your current rent for another year. Don't just wait for the landlord to send you a renewal notice with an increase. Be proactive. About 3 months before your lease is up, send your landlord a polite email. Reiterate that you have enjoyed living in the apartment and that you've been a responsible tenant, always paying rent on time and maintaining the property well. Then, state your intention to stay and propose to renew your lease for another year at the current rate. By initiating the conversation and reminding them that you are a reliable, low-maintenance tenant, you make a strong case for foregoing a rent increase. Landlords often prefer a proven, good tenant over the risk and cost of finding a new one. As you search, you must be vigilant to avoid scams. There are several red flags to watch for. Be wary of listings that seem too good to be truer. Downtown apartment at a suburban price, for instance. Scammers often use photos stolen from other real estate listings, so a reverse image search can sometimes reveal the fraud. Never, under any circumstances, send a deposit or any money before you have physically seen the apartment and met the landlord or their verified agent in person. Scammers will often create a sense of urgency, telling you that other people are interested and you must send a deposit immediately to secure the unit. This is a classic pressure tactic. A legitimate landlord will understand your need for due diligence. Always sign a formal lease agreement before any money changes hands. So, let's summarize the system. First, expand your search beyond the major websites to include Facebook Marketplace, local groups, and even neighborhood walks. Second, time your search for the off-season from November to February and check for new listings on weekday mornings. Third, use a professional, detailed message template to make a strong first impression. Fourth, learn to spot overpriced units by checking their days on market. Fifth, negotiate smartly on rent, inclusions, and future freezes during your viewing. 6. Prioritize rent-controlled buildings for long-term stability. 7th, calculate the total cost of each unit, including all utilities and fees. 8th, use layout hacks like dens to maximize your space and value. 9th, be proactive with your lease renewal to negotiate no increase. And finally, always be vigilant to avoid rental scams. Finding an affordable place to live in a competitive market isn't about luck. It's about having a calm, methodical, and strategic plan. By following these actionable steps, you can filter out the noise, avoid the overpriced traps, and find a home that supports your financial goals instead of draining them. You can achieve affordable living without sacrificing comfort or peace of mind. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing to Behind the Billions for more practical financial strategies.